All right, class. I'm going to talk about the pre-writing and essay one real quick. So, if you look at the pre-writing, it says that you must first have a declaration of the poems or poem or poems you will use, and they must come from the packet. I didn't specify this on the essay prompt, but it needs to be from the poetry packet. Now, unfortunately, the only two poets in the poetry packet are William Blake and Samuel Taylor Coleridge. I would very much like to have included more, but in the interest of time, I just kept it to those two. And I kept it to two romantic so that we could kind of stay in the same theme and the same genre and all that stuff. So you do need to use stuff from the poetry packet. Now, I suppose there is a chance that I could make a exception if you were to email me the poem that you were interested in writing about and to explain to me why you wanted to write about it. But it's very unlikely that I would approve it unless it was something of um, you know, something worthy of study. I don't. Poems are there are all kinds of different poems. Some poems are written by poets and they're very well written. Others are written by folks that are doing the roses are red, violets are blue sort of scheme, and it really has to be something of academic merit. Okay. You also need to declare which guide question you want to answer. So if you look at the essay prompt, I think there are 7 guide questions. I usually do things in 7. The first one is, how does the poem utilize nature as a recurring theme? What is the poem trying to communicate about nature that is new, interesting, or challenging to conventional attitudes or perspectives? The second one is, how does the poem use religious, mythological, or fairy tale imagery? How does the use of these elements give us a new or interesting perspective? What genre is the poem? What are the goals of that particular genre? And how does the poem meet them? Okay, so if you wanted to do like the romantic thesis, talking about the romantic genre, what is the message or moral of the poem, and how is that message communicated? What images stand out in the poem, and what might they mean or represent? Um, does the poem pair with any other poems, like The Tiger and the Lamb, for instance? If so, how does that pairing complicate or enhance the meaning of those works, both individually and collectively? Now, that's a fun essay. I've gotten some good ones in that arena. And then the seventh question is, how does the poem speak to its moment in history? And we talked a little bit about what was going on at that time. We talked about the Industrial Revolution. We talked about living post the Age of Enlightenment and having to deal with Enlightenment values. So if you want a more brush up, if you want to brush up on that stuff, you can go back and look at my previous video. So those are the 7 questions. All right. So to get back to the pre-writing, declare the poem, declare the question that you want to answer. Okay, that's number 1 and 2. Then I say on number 3, I want a strong hook or attention getter. Now, if you had my 1101 class, and some of you did, you know that I break down a formula for intro paragraphs, and that formula is hook, line, and sinker, to use something that is in the common speech that you hear a lot. So the hook is the attention getter. In formal writing, you really want to start with an attention getter because it can be some snoozer stuff. Man. I don't want to fall asleep reading these essays, so you want to get my attention and draw me in. Maybe talk about some of the tumultuous, interesting stuff that was going on during the time of Blake and Coleridge, and maybe talk about the sublime power of nature in an interesting and captivating way. You know, you really want to try to catch your reader's attention right from the start. Okay, so that is the hook. What are you going to do for a hook? There are lots of ways you can do a hook. Some people use quotes and stuff like that. I'm okay with that. I would just say that make sure that you don't use a quote that's like from brainyquote.com and it turns out not to be true because the internet is full of fake quotes from people. So be careful about that. Okay, so number 4 is the line. The line section. So the line section, which comes after the hook, line, and sinker, right? The line is all of the necessary contextual information that you need to establish the thesis statement. So, what poems are you writing about? What are the themes of the poems? What themes are you going to focus on? All of this information. What was going on during Blake's time? What was William Blake about? You don't need to tell me everything. You don't need to have like 3 pages of information so that you can set up a thesis. But what are the things that I need to know? What are the basic pieces of information? And that is your line section. Okay, it's like the line. You get it. It's fishing, right? Fishing is the thing. Okay. And then number 5, this is the sinker, is a working thesis statement. So hopefully you've been through comp. You guys know what a thesis statement is. It's like a main idea. In this case, the thesis statement needs to make an argumentative claim about the text, and that is an extremely important distinction. Okay. Um, A lot of times we think, oh, I'm in English class. What my professor wants me to do is read all these poems and then tell him what they're about. That's not exactly true. I mean, that's part of it, but I want you to make an argument about what the poems are doing. In other words, this poem uses X, Y, and Z in order to generate this effect, and this is why that's cool. Okay, that's basically a general formula for a thesis statement. So you need to think about how to posit your thesis as an argumentative claim. Something that is, now what is an argument? It's something that is an assertion and you need evidence to prove it. Okay? So if it doesn't fit those two things, it's not an argumentative claim. If you didn't get a lot of training about argumentative claims in your first class, you can schedule an appointment with me. I'm going to open up Collaborate meetings. And so if you want to ask me more about how to structure argumentative claims, I am making myself available to you on that front. So I'll get some more of that later. Number 6, you need topic sentences. So we just went over hook, line, and sinker for the intro. What are topic sentences? Topic sentences are claims. They're argumentative claims just like the thesis. They're like smaller pieces of the thesis statement. So if your thesis statement is your big argument, then your topic sentences are like your more localized or focused arguments. Okay? And so you need to have a topic sentence to head off every single body paragraph. Okay? So your topic sentence needs to make a claim. It needs to relate to the thesis. It needs to focus on a specific aspect of the text that is also covered by the general argument of the thesis statement, if that makes sense. So you need at least 3, because I try to say at least 3 body paragraphs is a good rule of thumb. Sometimes 4 is okay. Sometimes I get 2 body paragraphs that are 20 pages long, which don't do that if you can avoid. But yeah, 3 topic sentences is really what you need. Try to outline 3, and make an argument about the text that is focused on specific aspects of the text, because you're going to have to provide evidence to fortify your claim, right? So the evidence is going to come straight from the text itself. So you want to posit that claim about that evidence right off the bat at the start of the body paragraph, okay? And then the last thing is I want 3 pieces of textual evidence that you're going to quote. 3 direct quotes from the poem or poems. Okay, you can do multiple if you'd like. And you need 3 pieces of textual evidence from the text. Okay, they should fortify the argument that you put forth in the thesis, and you are going to use this evidence and quote it directly in your body paragraphs. If you need a refresher on how to do the quoting stuff, I sent out a video on MLA not long ago. It's not done by me, but it's done very well, and it talks about citations and that sort of thing. So please check that out. So there is a Turnitin Dropbox on Blackboard that you must submit this pre-writing through. I highly recommend that you guys use Microsoft Word and save your things as Word files for your submissions, not PDFs, and try not to use Google Docs. The school does provide a free Microsoft Office for you, and I can send you the link for that if you need it. And it will give you Microsoft Word, which will allow you to save things as Word files, and it won't cause, a lot of times if you do it on Google Docs and you try to save it to your computer, in that process of converting the file, stuff gets moved around. I don't know why. So I would just recommend that you be very careful. Go ahead and get Microsoft Word, download it to your computer. If you need help with that, reach out to me. Okay, so to get back to the essay prompt, we've already covered the 7 things. And we talked about the structure, and we talked about the need for a thesis and topic sentences. So basically, in the traditional 5-paragraph essay structure, 1,000 words, 3 pages, 5 paragraphs. That's kind of what you should shoot for. You can go to more than 5 paragraphs if you have more to talk about. So the first paragraph is the intro, obviously, right? And that's hook, line, and sinker, which we just talked about. Okay. The next 3 paragraphs are the body paragraphs, which you go topic sentence, evidence, and then in your voice you analyze the evidence. Okay, so you give the topic sentence, which is the claim that paragraph is going to deal with. Then you give the evidence, okay, and then you explain to me how the evidence fortifies the claim. And explain it very specifically. Be very specific and target the text that you just used. Mention the text specifically. Work very closely with the text and with the words on the page, because that is how you get your argument very specified, and that's how you get it a lot better, okay? So 3 body paragraphs just like that. You got your claim, you got your evidence, you got your analysis, and the analysis is in your voice. That's your words. Then you have your conclusion. People ask me, what do I do about the conclusion? Now, I know that for 1,000 years you've been told that the conclusion is the restatement of your argument. And I understand why people do that, and I understand why you would want that to be sort of the formula. But in my view, I don't really see the point of repeating your argument once you've already stated it for 3 pages. Right? There's no reason for you to restate all of the points of your argument right there at the end. That makes no sense. I've already read your argument. I should know it. So what do you need in the conclusion? The conclusion is a great place for open-ended stuff, for speculation. It's a great place to ask questions. You really want to leave your reader thinking, and you want to achieve a tone of closure. Okay? So you know how if you're watching somebody give a speech, you can always tell when that speech is wrapping up. People start packing up their bags and stuff when there's a certain tone that's expressed on behalf of this. So I'd like to thank you all for having, and that tone is called the tone of closure. Okay, that's what you want to achieve in your conclusion. You are wrapping things up. Great place for open-ended questions. Great place to speculate about what this means for the future and what we can learn from these poems. All that stuff is great. What I don't want to see is a base repetition of everything you've already said. Okay, and that's what I get 9 times out of 10. I'm still going to get that 9 times out of 10, but I've said it, so that should do it. Okay, that should cover pretty much in more detail what I expect for the pre-writing and what I expect for Essay 1. Both have to be submitted via Turnitin. Dropboxes either have been or will be created for that very shortly. And so you should make sure you have Microsoft Word. Make sure that you are using Google Chrome or Firefox when you access Blackboard. Just trying to head off some of the problems that I know are coming up. There are always technical issues. One thing I will say, if you find that you are struggling with submitting to Turnitin, change your device and make sure you're using make sure you're using Google Chrome and Mozilla Firefox, either or. And then if the device doesn't work, change the device. Because what I find is that a lot of times when people say they can't submit stuff to the Turnitin feature, it's because they're trying to avoid the plagiarism check. I've had people do that a lot. So I'm asking you to do your best to get it submitted, and if you think you might have issues, do your best to work around them in advance. That's all I can say. I do accept stuff by email to prove that you have completed it so you don't get a deduction, but I never grade an essay or a pre-writing or any of that stuff unless it's in the Turnitin Dropbox. So please make sure that you troubleshoot that you have Microsoft Word and all of that stuff. Okay, hopefully this helps clear some stuff up. I will have some more material for you in the future. Sorry for the poor lighting. Have a nice day.